to our next topic. Now, I'm sure you've heard on the news about the insurrection, right? And I always laugh because I'm such a smart person and I know things that people don't even understand. I'm sorry. I understand things that people don't even know because I'm omniscient. But they make it out like it's this big travesty. Like they almost overthrew the government. God forbid they almost overthrew this government. God forbid, right? And I always think it's funny because this is the image that flashes in my head, right? This is what happened. Keep in mind, I think one person died, and I'm not saying like, oh, just one person. How, like, that's nothing. But my point is, it's like they don't know what a real insurrection is. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to minimize a life of a person, even though I usually do that, and I have a whole article on that. But they don't know. Like, they're so coddled, they're so gun shy, they're big giant vaginas that they don't know what a real insurrection looks like. Right? Now, hold on. Oops.
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines.
Right? So this is what a real insurrection looks like. This is the image that flashes before my eyes every time I hear them bitch about it, okay? Yep. This is an insurrection. Okay? This is an insurrection. This is the head of their lead of the aristocrat, King Louis. And that's not the only one they're beheading. No. This was the insurrection, okay? Now, I'm not saying this has anything to do with real life. We're just going to do a little history lesson. This has nothing to do with what happened on that day. We're actually just going to skip into a history lesson. We're going to go over the French Revolution, guys. Take out your pens, your papers. We're going to do a little studying, guys. So they beheaded the king, who, according to this article, was a big giant vagina. Right? It took him 7 years to fuck his wife. You know, he's a real player. Hold on.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Right? So they beheaded him. So, and what else did they do? They destroyed the culture and they destroyed their history. What group of people were doing this? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to relate the past with the present. But here is something that happened in the French Revolution where they overthrew the government and the aristocrats. They destroyed the statues, which statues, even if they represent something bad, should at least be kept in a museum, because history is history, and even if it's bad, even if it was like disgusting, it should be preserved, because you know you can never go back in time and get that. So even though the aristocrats, whether you believe they deserve this or not, it should have been put in a museum. I never believe you should destroy the culture and history of anything, but you know, there are certain groups of people, Middle East, that usually do stuff like that. Okay? And, ooh, what is this? The law of Twitter? Basically, if you didn't agree with the revolutionaries, right? If you're like, hey, you know, oh, hold on, I got the perfect meme for it. You guys love my memes, right? Hold on. Well, let me play you a clip. Let me...
Now watch this drive.
Hold on. This was the French revolutionaries versus the moderate revolutionaries, okay? You ready for this?
Should someone have to have a government-issued license to drive a car?
Hell no.
What's next? Requiring a license to make toast in your own damn toaster?
The license to drive? You know, I'd like to see some competency exhibited by people before they drive.
So that was the debate between the French revolutionaries, right? Basically, who was more violent. And if you were moderate, you were basically against the revolution. If you didn't, you know, appeal to their ideology at all, like even if you agreed with like the government needs to be overthrown, if you didn't believe that they should have been also killed for it, you were against the revolution, and you know they encourage snitching within communities, which is never a good thing because it breaks down the cohesion of, you know, society and all that bullshit, right?
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not, generally speaking, unruly.
Exactly, just like this guy said it. So yeah, a lot of people died because they didn't want other people to die, and they invaded the moderates. Right? I call them moderates because they didn't believe that the aristocrat should have been killed, or at least just the king. Right? And the revolutionaries burned them, killed them. You know, just like the revolutionaries usually do. They kill everybody. They took the stuff, of course, because you're not going to just burn that, because that could be useful for you. I just said that. They killed the moderates. They drowned them. Men, women, old ladies, grandmas, children, babies. You know, babies would die on Twitter. I have no doubt about that. A baby would be racist on Twitter. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the French Revolution. So, yeah, they were drowning babies and stuff. Law 22. Oh, this is funny. Law 22, this is basically, they said that the revolutionaries basically believed that the prisoners, this was like people who were imprisoned before and during the revolution, that they would turn against the revolutionaries' new government. So they even killed the prisoners. That's interesting, huh? Like, even the people in jail, they didn't trust. People starved because the people who didn't know how to run a government, right? They just killed their leaders and they didn't know how to run a government. So a lot of people starved. Man, if I had to draw an analogy, all I could think about is Chaz and cheese or cheddar. Right? Like, people who are trying to overthrow the government but have no wherewithal on how to run a government or how to run a society. Right? They just have the arms to do it. They have no skill. The law of Maxim was basically one of the reasons for the revolution was because people were starving, because food is too expensive. So they said, all right, if any person who sells food charges too much, report them and we'll take money from them and give it to the snitch. Okay? Snitches get rewards, right? Hold on. I'm trying to think of a sound. Okay. Yeah, so, and what happened was that the people, and I didn't really know about this, but as soon as I read the first paragraph where they forced the price, I'm like, oh, I know exactly what's going to happen. Because it's like, you can never really overcharge on food just because food is so cheap to make. Right? I mean, you could overcharge on food, obviously. But the thing is, it's like, they weren't going to overcharge. So anyway, I don't know how to explain it, to be real honest with you, but like, I just know they weren't going to overcharge because I'm just thinking in the back of my head the fact that the farmers during the Great Depression, I think it was, in the USA, they were not making enough money for the effort they, like, food is so easily made, right? The amount of money that is so easily made that it's not even worth the effort to sell it. So the government subsidizes farmers. Basically, the government pays farmers extra money so that it's worth the effort. Because during the Great Depression, the farmers were like, you know what, I'd rather just throw the milk on the floor than put it on a cart and drive it to the mart and sell it to Bart. Right? That's what eventually happened. And that's basically what happened here. The merchants were like, I'm not going to put up with this. Like, I can't afford, this is not worth the effort. And then the revolutionaries just stole from the farmers. Yep. So the revolutionaries just basically did what the nobles did, right? Oh, this was what I was talking about before, where they killed the prisoners. What was the other thing? This was the... Oh, this is freedom of speech right here. If you criticize the revolutionaries, you would be tried and you would die, right? So basically, what happened in this insurrection, people who never run the government, who thought the government were bad, which, you know, I think the government sucks, they overthrew the government, they made their own government based on complete tyranny and obstruction of justice and unfairness and violence. And then what came of it?